go home and watch it later on YouTube or whatever, and away we go. Okay, and take a seat. Okay, here we are. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to FA255, the American Cinema, Understanding Movies. This is a basic introduction to Hollywood production. And so let's just jump into what the course is all about, what's expected of you, all that sort of stuff. And we'll begin with me. Everybody wants to know who I am, why I'm here. My name is Lucanio. That's how you pronounce that. They just moved me. So now I'm in a different office. It's the same building, but I don't think I know anybody here, so nobody's been to the old office. But you'll find me in the Forum building. That's building 17, just that away. And room 210, and my office hours are Tuesday mornings 9:30 to 10:30. If you cannot make that, we'll find another time. Something about me, I've been teaching film studies for a very, very long time, and I've written a bunch of books. I've studied mostly, my specialty is 1950s American cinema, which I categorize as roughly 1945 to 1965. That makes the 1950s. And I have written extensively about the monsters from the id during that era. I was even in a talking head movie that went real far. And anyway, that's basically what I do. Also, my latest work you can find on Amazon. I've written a chapter in a book called Science Fiction Theater, all about the Frederick Ziv organization, which was a television syndicator of the 50s, and I also co-authored in 1950s Rocket Man an essay about the Kid Rangers and that sort of thing that was made in the 1950s. In addition to that, I also edit a magazine called Radiogram, which is all about old-time radio. And that's something that I discovered when I was researching for film. I discovered at that period of time how much Hollywood and radio were involved with each other. And to that effect, if you've heard of this, you must know all about Radio Redux here in town. I will be speaking, as a matter of fact, on Friday night at the Halt Center on H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds as presented on radio by Orson Welles, the panic broadcast, the crazy broadcast that scared the nation and had people running for the hills because they thought the Martians had really landed. So anyway, I'll be talking about that this weekend. So that's who I am, okay? Now, about this course. To get in touch with me, I want to emphasize that you do not call me because I'm seldom here. If you call my telephone in my office, it'll just go to voicemail and I'll get it a week later, and then I'll call you back and you won't be home and you'll get it a week later or whatever, when blah, blah, blah. So no, for best results, use email. Please use the email. It is on the syllabus. I have 2 of them for you to use. So I want you to remember that. You will use email. You will use email. You will use email. You go to bed tonight thinking, use email, use email. Okay. The text for this book is American Cinema, American Culture by John Belton. It's a good book. Belton is a very good film scholar. He's been around for a long time. The book was written to correspond to what is in the videos that you will see. Now, what's important here is you don't need the most recent edition of the book. Any edition will work for this course. Since these movies are about 15 years old, if not 20 years old, the movies that you're going to see, the first edition of the book is probably closer to what you're going to see on the screen. The newer editions have the same information that you would need. The only difference is he's updated the film examples. So the film examples that he's talking about to illustrate the concepts, the ideas that are in the book, that are in the film series, are newer films. So, you know, there'd be the recent films, as recent as whenever that came out, which I think was like 2012 or something for the latest edition. So any edition works for this. So if you can find the first edition at a used bookstore for 25 cents, you're in good stead, okay? That's the way to go. So I just want to emphasize that. Now, of course, the issue would be, and I get this every term, someone will email me and say, I've got the reading list on the syllabus, but I can't find it in my book, which my book is chapter or the first edition. Well, you just have to work a little harder because they'll change some of the chapters around a little bit, but it's the same ideas are found in chapters. So you just have to work a little harder. That's about all it is when we have the differences in the text. Okay, moving on. Then what is this course all about? It is an introductory course that brings Hollywood filmmaking into clear focus as, number one, an art form. This is a given. This is why it's a college course. This is why all of you are in college, because it's an art form. And we all want to talk about all of the aesthetic quality that you find in Hollywood films, how beautiful they are, how wonderful they are, how they speak to us, all that sort of thing. And that is absolutely true. I'm not trying to discount that. But one of the nice things about this course is that they add something else to it. Something that in all the time that I taught film history, I have emphasized to all of my students. You have to accept one thing about the American film industry. It is an economic force first and foremost. Films are not made for artistic endeavors. Films are made to make money, and they are made to make lots of money. That's the whole purpose behind the film. So when you accept that premise, when you say, okay, they're making this film to make money, and they do certain things in the films to make sure they make money so that they reach the widest possible audience or whatever, then I say, I understand the purpose behind it. Now, does that negate the idea that it's an artistic endeavor? No. We look at it anyway as an aesthetic object. Sure, its real reason for being here is to make money, but we can look at it and we can talk about it and how it resonates with our sense of humanity. What does it tell us about ourselves? As I always say, a film is made this way, or a film has something to say, and it says it this way. And we look at it and we can appreciate its parts and how it works to talk about its own sense of humanity, its own sense of who we are, how we function, that sort of thing. In other words, it's like literature. So yeah, its purpose is to make money, okay? But that doesn't take away its aesthetic value. They also add another part to this, a system of representation and communication. What you'll find here is it talks about the idea that it represents what and who we are. It represents an American economical force, okay? It is a commercial product. It is made with the idea that it's going to reach a large audience and bring in massive amounts of money so everybody can live high and wild in Beverly Hills. All right, it's that kind of attitude. It's a cynical attitude, but that's the way it works. And it also communicates to us. It communicates ideas about who and what we are. It communicates notions which often turn people away from the films. Often people just say, I want nothing to do with this kind of film, whereas other people say, this is a perfect way of looking at film, and blah, blah, blah. So it looks at that as well. It's a representation of who we are. How did we get this far? That's especially true in the later part of the course. After you've examined that first, what Hollywood started out as, Hollywood, a commercial force, okay, making money, making these movies, showing them in just these little, you just rent a building and put up a sheet and crank away to show a movie because it was a novelty. to what it is today. It's an institution. It's something that has a lot of power. All the Hollywood stars, everybody in Hollywood is a politician now. Everybody has all these politics. That's how they try to win their certain kinds of audiences, by saying, I speak for all of these people or whatever. Whereas, a mere 60 years ago, they tried to avoid that kind of stuff for one reason. And the reason was, I think it was, I'm not sure who said this, but for some reason, it's Clark Gable, I think, said this, but I don't quote me. And that was, he says, look, if I tell everybody I'm a Republican, I've just lost half my audience. So they wanted to avoid that because they wanted to be everybody's friend back in those dark ages. And of course, as we look later on, it's no longer just a movie anymore, but it's become something else, something entirely different, as we'll note as later on in the course. It's not, we just don't make movies anymore, but we make almost things that are not just movies part of it. But what comes with that is we've got soundtrack albums. We got little figures we sell to go with it. It's an experience, and you go to an IMAX theater where the experience is almost like it's real, it's there, I feel it, I sense it, I'm in it, that sort of thing, which is a far cry from the old days of just sitting in a theater and watching it go by on a screen. Okay, moving on. The American cinema probes the deeper meanings of American movies with regard to what they call this, I don't like that term, but they call it the hidden message of genres. We all know what genre is. The genre is like a Western, a war film, a detective film, a horror film, a science fiction film, everybody's favorite film noir. It's these kinds of things. A film that has certain characteristics and traits that we see over and over and over again, and we like to see those kinds of things. And they make the case that what you find in there are these little hidden messages that go on, which it'll make sense to you as you watch these episodes that cover individual genres. Also, the social and psychological effects of style. The style on a film. Since pretty much the beginnings of film, it's what they call invisible editing, which means it's just simply you're watching this movie and things go by. You create an establishing shot so everybody knows where you're at, okay? So they show a building, and then you go into this building in a room, and you say, okay, now I'm inside that building, okay? And then two people walk into this room, and they remain in that building, and they talk to one another back and forth. And it gives us a sense of orientation. We know where it is. That's a psychological effect of that style. What would happen if it were different? How does that affect us? I once saw a film by a French filmmaker named Straub, who it was about ancient Rome. And the characters are dressed in their togas. But yet, as they walk around in the set, you see cars going by. What am I to make of that? It's set in ancient Rome, but we have cars going by. Is that considered a mistake? Obviously not, since it didn't bother him at all, because we just, every time, no matter what set it was, it had this kind of a look to it as being in ancient Rome, some pillars or whatever, but there's traffic in the background. Now, that style obviously has effect on me, and I'm trying to go, what do I make of this? He purposely did that, but what am I to make of it, you see? So those kinds of things. Also, the mutual influence of society and popular culture. It's this interlocking of our popular culture with our own sense of society. The basic assumption here, the basic question has always been this. I think you guys are too young to know about the mad slasher movies of the 1980s, when we had one film after another which just glorified killing people. And the more we could kill, the more body counts we got, the more the movie made money. And it was slashing. I mean, it was just, you get a cutthroat razor and slash somebody up. You get a Bowie knife, slash somebody up. And what did it always mean? Because part of this, as many of the feminists at the time argued, why is it that every time it's a beautiful girl that gets cut up? We don't see men being cut up, but women being cut up. What does that mean? What does that tell us? Okay, at that point, lots of people were saying, this is enough. We got to do something about these movies. You can't do this. This is turning people into killers, right? That has been the question forever. Does a movie influence people to act in a certain kind of way? Or do they simply reflect what society is doing at that time? And the answer is yes. It's both. You know, yes, movies will influence us. Why do you think we have TV commercials? Why do you think we have all those commercials that are telling us to go buy stuff? We know those things influence us. The old story goes when Clark Gable took his shirt off, and it happened one night back in 1934. He took his shirt off, and he didn't have an undershirt on. The story goes, it's apocryphal, but the story goes that men's undershirts collapsed. There were no sales. No man bought an undershirt because the He-Man of all He-Men didn't wear an undershirt. Okay, so it's back and forth. It's back and forth. They'll talk about that. Okay, moving on. Our schedule works this way. It's a 60-minute lesson every week, and it's on the cable system, but I think that's kind of archaic right now because, I mean, I haven't asked every student I had, but within recent times, everyone has watched it online. It is available on the Annenberg site. That big long address there that you see on the screen, that's also in the syllabus, and it's also on Moodle. If you go there, there's a link to it, how you can get to these. So they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online, so you don't have to really sit and watch it on the cable system. Okay, the next time I talk to you in this kind of setting is May 1st, May Day. At this place at the same time. That's when I will give you a midterm review. I will tell you what to expect on the midterm. You don't have to be here because it will be recorded and it'll be available. You can watch it, or if you want to see it live, it will be streamed live. So you don't really have to be here. This could be the only time I ever see you. You can be here if you want. I mean, I'm not trying to keep you away. But it's not required. And then you will have the midterm. And I offer the midterm 1 week only, May 3rd through May 11th in the testing center. That starts on a Wednesday this year. Normally, it's a week Thursday through Thursday. But this happens to be the week of the midterm that there is the in-service day on Friday, May 4th. So I still give you a full week, so you still have that time. So it'll run through May 3rd through May 11th. Be sure to check the availability of hours in the testing center. Then I will see you again on June 5th for a final exam review. And then the final exam June 8th through June 15 in the testing center, 1 week only. So what do I do? What do I do? All right. Obviously, you watch the video programs. Again, there it is. I just want to remind you, it is available online. You'll be able to watch it at your convenience. Read appropriate sections of the text. The appropriate sections are outlined in the syllabus so that each chapter will correspond to what the video is all about. Take notes if you have to. If you're a genius and you don't need them, then don't do it. But if you need to take notes while watching the video presentations. And the requirements are these. Again, because of the college has required this, you do have to check in this week. So there is an exercise, and I forgot about this one. I always forget about this because this is required by the college here. But it is something I get interested in. You have to check in on Moodle by Friday of this week. And all I want you to do is to identify your favorite movie and why, drop a few lines on why you happen to like it. And that could be even something like, my favorite movie of all time is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And the reason I like it is I'm not really sure, but I just love it. I just can't get enough of it. It's just something that just speaks to me, and I don't know why. I accept that. for this class, for that purpose, you know, you're not analyzing it. It's just something that happens, and that happens to us. There is no question that happens to us. You can go into a movie, first time ever, you walk into a theater, you look at that movie, and you go, I love this. This movie really talks. This movie is wow. That's all I can say right now is that this movie is wow. And someone says, well, why do you say that? And you say, I don't know. I just like it. But then you can analyze it later. And you'd probably say something like, well, you know, I love the photography. It looks really, really cool. And I love the soundtrack. I love the music. I love how the music and the images come together. I love all this stuff. I don't even know who's in it because it's its form that speaks to me. You know, so that's a legitimate response when you see a film. It's only later when you think about it and you kind of mull over it and you go over it again and again and you start seeing how things begin to work together for it. And I know, you know, that's often in a classroom setting. That's awfully a horrible thing to happen because, you know, you have to produce things right away often. You know, you got to say, I saw the movie and do I like it? Yeah, I like it. You know why? No, I don't. But you might know why you like it a couple of months later. And again, that's legit. All right? So the Moodle check-in. You got to do that because if you don't check in with me, I throw you out of the class. And you have no chance of getting back in. So you don't want to be dropped. So make sure and check in. Okay, and then the only other thing is 2 exams. All right? That's it. A midterm and a final. Each exam will be 50 questions. They'll be multiple choice. They're all done in the Instructional Services Center. That's Building 311. You need photo ID and an L number. Always check to verify when they're open. And please pay attention. I had a student, I had a problem a couple of terms ago where some guy wouldn't take his hat off, and they had a big to-do about it. They, you know, turn off all cell phones and electronics, place them in backpacks or check them with the staff. All belongings, including backpacks, hats, and coats, will be placed inside provided cubicles. That's what they want you to do with it, so just obey the rules and you'll get along with them. But I do offer you this. You can take with you to the exam a 3x5 card. Normally all my exams are open book, open note kind of a thing, but you can't handle that. They can't handle that over the testing lab, but they do offer you to take in a 3x5 note card. So again, it's a simple thing. If you're going through the movie, the program, the video, and you go, wow, I know all of that stuff, except I can never keep aspect ratios straight. I never know what they mean by cinemascope and all of that stuff. Well, write that down just in case that guy up there asks me about it in the exam, which he probably will. Catch on? Yes. Okay. You are responsible for your exam, not me. That is, you are responsible for getting there and taking it with enough time to take it. Okay, also during that time, also during the midterm and the final exam, on Moodle, there will be study guides for you to download, so you'll be able to have something in writing there that would direct you towards what you need to know. As regard to extra credit, I mentioned this before we started, but you have 2 options. It's explained in the syllabus, but you can write a paper on the production elements of a single sequence of any film, and I really push this on you, produced before 1970. Why? Because that's the stuff that you normally wouldn't watch. I'm forcing you to watch something that you otherwise wouldn't watch. Okay? Now, I could get really cruel. I could really torture you by saying you have to watch a black and white movie. Okay? But no. But it has to be made before 1970. All right? Or, if so inclined, produce your own narrative or documentary production. Talk to me about that part of it. Details are in the deluxe syllabus. It's available on Moodle. If you didn't get one here tonight, you can get one on Moodle. Read the syllabus closely because it does outline all the stuff you need to do, as well as all that fine print stuff. And okay, if you're confused, bewildered, rattled, depressed, and desperate like I am, well, stop by during office hours or send an email and I'll try to clarify it. So what are you going to look at? The first thing you're going to see is the classic Hollywood style. They're going to talk about that, and classic doesn't mean old. As you will realize here, classic is an aesthetic theory here that they talk about. It's a certain way of making films. Then they move into that very peculiar thing called the studio system. An empire within itself. An empire that is run by an emperor, the old movie mogul that more or less dictated everything about what movies should have in them, who should be in them, and so forth. Then it moves to that peculiar thing known as the star. The performers that we like in the beginning, were there stars? Yes and no. It was just actors appearing. But people began to say, I like seeing that certain person in there. I want to see more movies with that kind of person. Suddenly that person got a lot of clout and said, look, they want to see me. They don't want to see what you're doing here. They want to see me fork out more money. Then we go into the genre. The first one they look at is the Western, which is very particular, belongs to the American cinema. Then it moves over to the romantic comedy, then into the combat film, which everybody else on the planet calls a war movie. They call it the combat film. And then everybody's favorite film noir, lots of light and shadow and assertive, aggressive women who run the show, lots of guns, lots of telephones. And film in the television age, how that changed, and primarily the technological innovations that came at that time to compete with TV. In the very beginning, we forget about this, but in the very beginnings of TV screens were only about this big. They're only about 5 inches across. They were round. It was like looking through a porthole in a ship. So what did Hollywood do? Create big, wide-screen movies. And then it moves into the film school generation, when you go to college to make movies. And then it goes into the edge of Hollywood. This is where it begins to change. This is where it begins to be something more than just a movie. So, okay, there are the 2 email addresses that you can use to get in touch with me. Those are also in the syllabus. Want to remind you that it's your responsibility to get there, to take the exams, check the availability of their hours, and that's it. The end. We made it. It's over. Thanks, and see you later.